Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Unfiltered Report. My name is Ryan. We're going to speed run a little bit, not speed run completely, but a little bit. We're going to recap day number 8 of the World Cup. So that way we can come in and recap day number 9 in due time here. But in order to get to number 9, you gotta talk about number 8 as best as possible, just to kind of pick up where we are and continue along this beautiful 5 week journey that we've got here in North America with the World Cup. We'll kick things off with match day 2. The match day 2 opener was the Group A match between Czechia and South Africa. This match was played in Atlanta, home of the Falcons, Mercedes-Benz Stadium. This was a match that I think in many ways as you continue through the tournament, sometimes you have some thoughts maybe before the tournament, or maybe you're not as fully prepared as you would like. But once you kind of immerse yourself into the action, you pick things up quickly. And I think this match is a perfect example of that, where Czechia got off to a great start. They took the lead in the 6th minute, but other than that, outside of them taking the lead, very, very uninspiring performance from them. They are who they are, for better or for worse. And I know we've come on here and talked about it a lot with whether you want to call it the terrorist ball or whatever you want to call it. And in Czechia, they really embodied that to a T. They, for better or for worse, they are who they are. They play their way. They play their style. Against Korea, they also took a 1-0 lead. They gave up 2 goals in the second half, and they ended up not getting any points out of that match. You thought if they were able to get an early goal against South Africa with the way that they play, you would have thought that maybe that 1 goal would have been enough for them. They'd be comfortable sitting back and doing their deal. But all the credit to South Africa. South Africa really were the better side in the second half, especially. And in the 83rd minute, they equalized on a penalty. Throughout the match, especially, the longer the match went, South Africa were not only the better side, but would have been the more deserving side to get 3 points. All in all, ends up being a 1-1 draw, puts both teams behind the 8 ball, not only to finish in the top 2 of the group, but really, with these top 8 third place sides out of 12 being able to move on. You're looking at it, and we'll get to Mexico, South Korea in just a little bit. But if you had to forecast a little bit heading into match day 3 without getting too far ahead of ourselves, it looks like both of these sides are going to be one of those 4 sides that doesn't make it out of the group stages, barring something unforeseen. Maybe if they're able to get 3 points, which I doubt it. And if one of them's able to get a draw, it doesn't look like 2 points is going to be enough. You never know. But with both teams sitting at a point each through 2 match days, you felt like either one of these 2 sides needed the 3 points in order to have a chance to make it to the knockout stages. Again, credit to South Africa for being a better side, especially as the match continued. Um, they performed much, much better than they did against Mexico in the World Cup opener. They were definitely a lot more comfortable on the ball than they were against Mexico. They dominated the majority of the possession and the majority of the chances in this match, especially throughout that. They weren't able to convert in open play, but even when they equalized in the 83rd minute, if anyone was going to get a second goal, it was going to be South Africa. Czechia really had no threat moving forward. We've talked about it before and throughout the tournament that Czechia really the only chance for them. Obviously, that I will say that, their first goal, they were able to score it in open play. It wasn't off of a set piece or a penalty or anything of that nature. But all in all, I would say a very disappointing match from Czechia. I think, obviously a point is a point, but in this case, a point probably not good enough for them. South Africa, obviously, for them to get a point, um, disappointing for them probably as well. But I think if you had to look at which side would be happier with the point, you would have to look at it from a South African perspective, especially considering how poorly they were on match day 1. The fact that they were able to bounce back and at least get a point, regardless what happens on match day 3 against South Korea. They got a result in this tournament, and that match day three against Korea will be in Guadalupe, Mexico, and then Czechia and Mexico match day three. Going to be back at the Estadio Azteca for Mexico. Good luck to Czechia, man. It's going to be a physical match. Mexico's going to. I mean, listen, if Czechia been having problems as it is, Mexico's going to put the clamps on them, and it's going to be incredibly difficult for Czechia to be able to put anything in the back of the net. I think both of these sides, their World Cups will come to an end come match day three. I'd be shocked if either one of them gets 3 points. I mean, you never know. It's the beauty of the tournament and it's the beauty of sport. You never know. Anything can happen, but I'd be pretty confident that either of these sides are going to be moving on, and they will be one of the four third place sides, whichever one finishes in third, that doesn't move on. As of now, Czechia is in third place based on goal differential, um, but are only a goal up on goal differential. And like I said, I'd be shocked if either one of these teams ends up being one of those eight third place sides that moves on. But I think more credit to South Africa. And if you're Czechia, very disappointed if you're them. Obviously, I'm sure it's not totally surprising to a lot of people who have watched Czechia play before the tournament. Um, but I think sometimes you confirm that in many ways, and it was a disappointing performance from them all around. Um, so all in all, a draw there finishes 1-1 in Atlanta. And like I said, I would be shocked if either of these sides move on into the knockout stages. But if they do, tip of the cap to them when that happens. Moving on to the second match of the day of match, the first day of match day two, day eight of the World Cup. We had the first match of match day two in Group B between Switzerland and Bosnia. Uh, this was a very interesting match. You know, this was a very interesting match. The first half went about exactly according to script. You would have imagined. Bosnia were gonna really play compact. They really didn't have much of anything going forward throughout the match. It was definitely the case in the first half. Um, all in all, this was going to be one of those where if Bosnia were going to get a result, they were going to get a result in a nil-nil draw. They were able to keep the Swiss at bay for 73 minutes in that match. And, it goes without saying that the Swiss, up until the 74th minute of the match, had a very disappointing match and a half in the tournament, drawing against Qatar, and then nil-nil with Bosnia. But you know what? We talked about how the World Cup can be a platform for players who maybe are not. It's not a surprise for people who are in tune, but something where on the global stage, you can really confirm that. And this Johan Manzambi guy, the 20-year-old from Freiburg, definitely one of those guys who's making a name for himself in this tournament. Someone who's going to definitely have a bright future if he keeps continuing along the trajectory path. Had a really great season at Freiburg, mind you. But here at the World Cup, this is a guy who, when he came on match day one as a substitute against Qatar, even though they weren't able to put one in the back of the net, he completely changed the complexion of the match from a Swiss perspective. And then against Bosnia, he was even better than he was against Qatar. And almost immediately upon coming onto the match, he comes on in the 71st minute, and not even 3 minutes later, he puts one in the back of the net. And from there, the floodgates opened. I mean, he was absolutely not only the man of the match, he was the X factor. And I think if you're Switzerland, you got to be looking at this guy's got to be starting and playing as close to a full 90 as possible if they want to get to where they want to get to. I know some people might say, the whole super sub thing or whatnot. Listen, I think when you got a player like that, especially how poorly they are in attack when he's not on the pitch, I think you really got to look into him being able to play as many minutes as possible in this tournament. And not only scoring in the 74th minute, he also gets one in the 90th minute. His first two goals at the World Cup. Another player at this World Cup with two goals. Obviously, him coming on the start of match day two. But listen, this guy was incredibly bright. His first goal was brilliant. That opened the scoring. He's just a joy to watch, and I can't wait to watch more of him throughout the rest of this tournament. And then, when we get back to the club season to see what he's able to do and build off of this tournament, he was brilliant. Ruben Vargas as well. Um, Another player who came on in the 71st minute and completely changed the complexion of the match. He also deserves a lot of love. Uh, the 27-year-old from Sevilla, he was brilliant. Shout out to Sevilla, beautiful city. Uh, but listen, Ruben Vargas, Johan Manzambi, the substitutes that came on for Switzerland, completely changed the complexion of this match, opened up the floodgates. In the 80th minute, Bosnia had a red card. They were able to get one in the third minute of stoppage time of the second half, but then Granit Xhaka puts them back 3 goals on top with the penalty in the 7th minute of stoppage time. And for a match that was there was a very big lack of chances in the first 70 something minutes of this match. And for this first 70 minutes of this match, it went according to script for Bosnia. More frustration for the Swiss, but those substitutes, credit to them, they came on. They did exactly what they had to do. And they finally were not only able to find the back of the net and open play, but the floodgates open for them. And they put not one, not two, not three, but four past Bosnia, setting up what's going to be a great match day three with Switzerland and the host nation, one of the three host nations, Canada. And then if you're Bosnia, look, Bosnia was fortunate to get a point against Canada, which sets them up against Qatar, where if you're Bosnia, you absolutely have to get the 3 points there. You're at a bit of a disadvantage. You're at a complete disadvantage there on the goal differential, but if you can get the 4 points and maybe, you get the goal differential when you can't. But the most important thing for Bosnia, from Bosnian perspective, you have to be thinking you got to get 3 points against Qatar, like we mentioned in Group A. A draw and being on 2 points probably not going to cut it, barring something very drastic. So, if you're Bosnia, you have to find a way to beat Qatar. You worry about goal differential when you get there, but you have to get the 3 points first and foremost. And then moving on to Canada and Qatar, the opener for Canada was in Toronto. This match was in Vancouver. Canada, we mentioned Kyle Larin. He came on, kind of opened the scoring for Canada in match day one. Obviously, was able to bag a goal for them off of a deflection on match day one off the bench. In this case, he comes in and starts, and in the 16th minute, he puts them in an early lead, and they never looked back. Qatar against Switzerland, Switzerland couldn't convert any of those chances, and Qatar were able to equalize at the death. This was one of those matches where it was the complete opposite in the sense that Canada made sure that they buried the chances that they had. And as a result, you cannot dominate a match more than they did. I know, again, statistics don't always tell the full scope of the story, but just to put it in perspective here, when it's all said and done, 79% possession, 32 shots, 10 on target. Um, it goes without saying that they dominated this match from start to finish. Qatar did end up with two red cards, the first in the 33rd minute and the second in the 53rd minute. The second red card, for those who haven't seen it and for those who haven't, it was a brutal injury for Ismail Kone. You hate to see it. His leg, it was obvious when it happened that he broke it, and the scenes after the fact were really tough to watch. Whether it was Kone, who, sometimes, you always hear with athletes when they suffer, really major traumatic injuries. Um, you look at that and you say, man, sometimes you hear the stories about how they don't feel the pain immediately. There's stories of even sometimes when players tear their ACL, maybe they don't immediately know, and they're able to play the rest of the game, and only after the adrenaline wears off. In some cases, obviously, when you tear an ACL, right off the bat. And then, with the broken leg, this was one of those, it was brutal to watch because you could see that probably in the moment he didn't realize that his leg was broken until he looked at his leg and saw that it was in a direction that nobody's leg should be in. Just a brutal injury. They had to card him off. I really felt for the defender Madibo too. I know he got a red card. Obviously, it goes without saying. I don't think he was trying to break his leg. It wasn't really. I mean, it was a red card, but it wasn't as malicious of a challenge as you would think, considering the fact that Kone broke his leg. I feel I really felt for both of them in different ways. Obviously, for Kone because he broke his leg, and this is a young player who was really looking forward to watching in the tournament for Canada. And you hate to see such a brutal injury like that. And you hope that he's able to come back from that in due time and better than ever. But on the flip side, you very rarely will see a player react to causing an injury like that, than what you saw on the face of Madibo. Um, I mean, it looked like his soul left his body and he was completely distraught and he couldn't believe it. And I mean, you could see the emotion on his face. You could tell that was the last thing that he wanted to happen. And so in many ways, you feel for both of them in different ways. Obviously, Kone for the injury, but Madibo, you could look. Was it a red card? Yes. Did Kone break his leg? Yes. But was that what he intended to do? Absolutely not. And they always say you can't fake emotion and remorse, and you could see it on his face that he was not. I mean, even if I think, to be honest with you, they did him a favor in sending him off and giving him a red card, just in a sense that I don't think he would have been able to be able to continue playing mentally. He was clearly distraught, and my heart goes out to both players in different ways. I wish Kone a speedy recovery, and from Madibo, I hope that he's able to give himself the grace to forgive himself for that, because I know he knows, and I think most people, that wasn't the intent, and sometimes brutal injuries happen, and you hate to be the one that brings that about, and I know he wasn't intending for that to happen, despite a poor challenge. So I wish both of them. Uh, a lot of grace there. We talked about Jonathan David, and how any success that Canada was gonna have was gonna come down to Kyle Aaron, Jonathan David up top, and if they would be able to convert chances. Jonathan David with the hat trick. Nathan Saliba scores in the 64th minute, and then an own goal for Qatar. For everything that went right for Qatar on match day one, Switzerland not being able to convert their 27 shots, was a 10 on target. And only being able to score that first half penalty. Canada made no such mistake. And obviously, not only one, but two red cards is not going to help your case. Granted, Canada had put two in before the first red card, but once not only one, but two red cards, the floodgates open, and it ends up being 6-0 Canada, which puts Canada on goal differential in a great spot heading into match day 3 against the Swiss, where, against the Swiss, they're only going to need a draw in order to top the group. Whereas if you're the Swiss, you're going to need to get the full 3 points in order to top the group. Um, so all in all, that was that there. And then the last match of the day, the second match in Group A, Mexico, South Korea. We talked a little bit about Mexico earlier. This match was in Guadalajara before they go back to the Azteca on match day 3. Look, we've said it before the tournament, during the tournament, we'll continue to say it. It's going to be incredibly tough to beat Mexico in Mexico, regardless of who they play. I know there's a potential for them to play England in the knockout rounds. England, if that's a potential matchup, is going to have their hands full. Whoever it is, Mexico in Mexico will be incredibly tough to beat. They are incredibly resolute in what they do defensively. Is it the most aesthetically pleasing thing to watch? Not necessarily. Are the Mexican supporters maybe the biggest fan of the play style? I'm sure some of them would disagree, but at the end of the day, you get 3 points. You're already onto the knockout stages. They've already topped the group. They've done what they needed to do. So I don't think anyone's going to argue about the results as long as they happen. But listen, this was a match that was very cagey, very Mexico. In matches like these, we always talk about which side is going to be able to impose their style of play and tactical desire on the other. This was a match where Mexico was able to impose their will. The goal that Mexico scored, I felt really bad for the South Korean keeper, Kim Seong-gyu. He goes in, gets his hand on the ball. There's a little bit of a collision with the defender, Lee Ki-hyuk, and he drops the ball. I'm sure he's made that play a million times and hasn't dropped the ball in it throughout his career, not even as a professional, but throughout his footballing journey. And just one of those things where if you run that simulation 100 times, he doesn't drop it all 100 times, but the ball comes out, spills out of his hands, falls right into the lap of Luis Romo, who puts it in the back of the net for probably what will be the easiest goal he will ever score in his life. And that was the only goal that was necessary. South Korea had a brilliant chance around the 87th minute. It was a great double save by the Mexican keeper, Raul Rangel, the Guadalajara man himself, able to keep that clean sheet. But all in all, South Korea really didn't have much going forward beyond uh, those two chances, which in reality were the only two shots on target they had the entire match. Mexico did an amazing job being able to suffocate them and prevent Korea from playing the way that Korea want to play. Korea are going to be in a great chance to move forward regardless. I would fully expect them to finish in second in the group and move on comfortably. But all in all, that's the tail of that match. We will be back here to recap day number 9 of the World Cup very shortly in due time. I hope everybody stays safe out there. Have an incredible weekend. My name is Ryan. This has been a speed ran version of our day 8 recap. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you'll continue to enjoy it. Continue to join us not only throughout the tournament, but with everything else on the docket. We got lots in store for the people out there, so I hope you stay with us. My name is Ryan. Stay safe out there. Enjoy your weekend. Stay safe. Have fun, baby.